Why a raven head? Well, these are sold as sort of Viking utility knives by several manufacturers. How accurate that is contentious. Let's put it like that. But they are really nice knives. Raven's head, because it's supposed to be a Viking knife, and the raven was a particularly important animal in Viking and Norse mythology. Odin, who was the chief Viking god, had two that acted as agents or spies. They used to fly around and spy on people and tell them what they were up to and what their enemies were up to. And of course, there'd be the presence of ravens on battlefields feasting on dead people. So, whether it's actually accurate as a Viking utility knife, well, the jury's well out. There's a lot of people who say that there aren't. There's even more people who will vocally say that there aren't. Um, I don't really care. I like this knife a great deal, and the fact it's a sort of themed knife, I suppose, adds quite a lot to that. Right, the handle is really quite thin, and you might think it's going to be uncomfortable to hold or to use. It isn't. I tried what I was cutting for a couple of hours, boxes and bits of wood and stuff like that, bottles, and it's actually a lot more comfortable than it seems. Leather wrapped. I don't know entirely how it's secured. Super glue, I would guess. There's a nice swell to it, which just I find really, really comfortable. And that raven's head, you get a couple of different grips, and that I did it accidentally one night. I cracked the back of my hand, and trust me, that is really, really painful. We're going to try to test that later. Tee hee. Um, yeah, I think it's a strikingly handsome looking knife. It's 1095, which is high carbon, so it does need care. It will need oil. Otherwise, I did an experiment. It will rust within 24 hours if you don't look after it properly. The blade's forge scale you can see on it, I think, gives it a sort of, well, period look, if it is in fact a period item, and just makes it look. It looks different. It's different to polished knives. It's a nice thick blade as well. Overall, 26 centimeters. Blade is, we've got about 15-inch centimeters, or what, about nearly 6 inches long. Overall, 10 and a half inches. It's a perfect size. It really is a usable, workable knife. It wasn't too sharp when I got it, so like a lot of more expensive knives, it wasn't. It was 35 quid, so I suppose it wasn't too expensive. It wasn't that sharp. I did need a bit of sharpening. I have modified the blade a little bit. This edge here came to a proper right angle, and I was worried about cutting my fingers on it, so I just took that down a little bit and made it so much more comfortable. And just taken the edge down on here and on this side, it just makes it so much more comfortable. I never did cut my finger on it before I tried it, but I was always a bit worried I was going to. And it does cut really quite nicely. The sheath, it's really nice. It's got that sort of, I think, slightly Scandinavian look where the handle is sort of wrapped by the leather. It's a nice pattern on it. It's come up really, really nicely with a bit of leather treatment. It's given it a really nice gloss finish. This tab is big enough to be able to just flip open and it falls out the way. It's not without a couple of issues, as is the knife, really. The staining, which is nicely done, and it's not stained the stitching, sort of stops in that bit just there. There is a faint machine line along here, which I think, well, I can live with it. There's another one on the other side, which you can just about see there. It arrived with this chunk of leather missing. The knife itself, the bevels aren't perfectly even either side. This is quite a lot lower on this side than on this side, but it's handmade. I think it just gives it a bit more of a kind of vintage period medieval feel about it. Its imperfections add a great deal to it, if I can put it like that, if that doesn't sound too bizarre. I genuinely do like this, though. It's a handsome looking knife. It's nicely designed. It works really well. And the other thing I had to do with the sheath, what I forget, is where the blade sits in. Just that I did have to just cut that slight channel into this spacer part. Otherwise, the knife wouldn't always actually go in properly. So, not perfect, but It's brilliant in my eyes. Let's see what we can do with it. Let's see what the raven head can do to a coconut. Not as much as I was thinking. Well, it can certainly do enough damage. Foam insulation.